Hello and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern. Facebook group, Meebee group, Discord, Twittering, Instagram. I actually put up an Instagram post last week. The world is coming to an end. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, somebody was nice enough to send me a link to an article. Now, the original article I read was at I don't know, Well of Souls or some shit like that. Horribly incoherently written. So I went to comicbook.com, and yes, they have a much better, much more coherent article on Dungeons and Dragons officially removes negative racial ability scores, ability score modifiers from the rules. So what are we talking about? Well, Dungeons & Dragons players will no longer have a negative ability score modifier when building a character of a certain race. Last week, Dungeons & Dragons officially released updated Errata. Now, I always think of Errata as, you know what, we screwed this rule up, it was a typo, or it doesn't work, so we're going to fix it. This isn't really a fix. These are changes. Changes in the default game. Not to fix something that wasn't working, but to fix something to be more, I guess, politically correct, Care Bear. I mean, depending on how you're looking at it. I'm looking at it as a game that was balanced, right? 5e is the balanced game. And now we are removing penalties, but we're not removing bonuses that were offset by those penalties. So there's a game imbalance problem, but we'll go back to this. Officially released at least updated errata for a number of their source books and adventures. The Volo's Guide of Monsters errata was particularly important in that it removed the negative ability score modifiers for playable races, for playable kobolds and orcs. While kobolds originally had a -2 modifier to their strength score, no, right? Because we always perceive kobolds to be these scrawny, lizard-like humanoids. And orcs had a -2 modifier to their intelligence because we always role-played orcs as stupid but strong, right? That's how I always saw them. The updated rules remove these modifiers entirely from the game. Additionally, the errata also removes the orc's medicine trait with the primal intuition trait, which grants players proficiency in 2 of the following options: animal handling, insight, intimidation, medicine, nature, perception, and survival. Apparently, this reflects previous comments by the D&D team that promised better representation and a movement towards giving the player characters individualism, as opposed to forcing them within cultural stereotypes within the game's lore. All right. So, I always thought that, you're going to play a halfling, right? Halflings are not going to be strong. At AD&D, they suffered I can't remember now, it was a 1 or 2 point reduction to their strength, but they got a bonus to their constitution. They could hide in shadows, they could move silently. They got bonus save versus poison and magic. These were theoretically part of the balance. And now, if I go back and say, well, halflings no longer have a strength penalty in AD&D, well, then it throws off that balance, right? So, and 5e to me was always sold as the balanced version of D&D, finely tuned. Well, as we all know, when we make our house rules on games, when you start tinkering with one aspect, you wind up having to tinker with another aspect, and you gotta so on and so on. But now, literally, your kobold can be as strong as, I don't know, half elf, half ogre, whatever. I was talking with one of my friends, and he's like, if I played in their Adventurers League, right? Isn't that the organized play for Wizards of the Coast? I would make the stupidest, overpowered kobold just to prove a point. And in Adventurers League, the DM's not going to be able to shoot that down, right? Because that's part of it. Now, and here's that thing: the Adventurers League is balanced gameplay, right? It's organized gameplay. Everybody, you can take your character from one organized league play session to another groups and another location, and your character is going to be balanced. But now all of a sudden, your prior kobold character, who I was like, oh, well, you're no longer suffering that -2 to your strength. I'm not. Oh ho 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 ho. Now and there's nothing balancing that out, right? There's no, well, your strength goes up, but now your, I don't know, dexterity goes down. Nope, nope. You keep that bonus, and you get your 2 points back in strength. It's, in my opinion, you are catering to the lowest common denominator, right? You're catering to the Care Bear player. And I've already gotten in trouble for calling 5e the Care Bear edition of D&D because uh, I was talking with one of my friends last week, and they were talking about, oh yeah, I was running 5e, and I killed like the players like 6 times, but they kept on coming back. They finally defeat the dragon. I go, you killed how many people in your party? 4. But how'd you kill them 6 times? Oh well, the cleric could resurrect them. Now I don't know if this is uh, built into the game. This is a special magic item. I was just like, wow. But then again, I also realized too, it isn't like with 5th edition, it's hard to kill a character. Don't have to fail like multiple rolls to finally die. So I guess I really shouldn't be so disappointed that we're doing this. But part of this is, remember, and forgive me for even going here, but there was that whole thing where orcs were a stand-in for blacks, right? And it was saying, well, orcs are a dog whistle for black people, and that's therefore saying that all orcs are evil is like saying all black people are evil. I never looked at orcs as any race of humans because they weren't. They are a fictional race. Like, we don't have halflings. I don't look at halflings and go, oh, well, they're pygmies, right? No. I don't look at elves, and I don't know what. The elves don't match up to anything, right? Dwarves. Do we have a race of dwarves going around? I mean, they might speak with a Scottish brogue in some people's games, but it doesn't make them based upon that. Orcs are fictional. This is a fictional game. These are fictional, made up races. It's a fantasy game because it's that fantasy. Now, I don't have an issue if you go, well, I want to play a drow or a drow, however you pronounce that shit. That's a chaotic good ranger named Trist, who has a leopard as his animal companion and fights with 2 pickaxes. Whatever, dude. Whatever makes you happy. As a DM, we can make an exception for you. So the Drow are historically, chaotic evil race, and they are a matriarchy, but we will allow you to play a mill Drow in my campaign if you really want to. But you have to understand, you are the exception, right? And you have to understand when you go into uh, towns and villages and even cities that are ruled by elves, dwarves, halflings, the good races, they're going to assume that you are evil until you prove yourself otherwise, because that is what your kind is. That's because it's a fantasy world, right? Same thing with orcs. You don't have orcs in most campaigns aren't pulling up to the bar. I mean, the whole thing was like, if you want to be a half orc, you realize that you're going to get a little DM abuse, right? I remember playing a half ogre when that class was in Dragon Magazine and Best of the Dragon. I was like, oh, I'm gonna play a kick-ass ogre. Only one problem: everywhere you went, it was already assumed that you were a bad guy until you proved otherwise. That was part of the balancing of the fact that you got this huge strength bonus. Uh, so I don't have a problem with these things being one-time exceptions, which is what the DMs did for anyway. But to make these blanket changes, and it's like, all right, well, everybody, you can play kobolds that are just as strong as that human fighter over there. Aren't they like, 3 feet tall, 3.5 feet tall, and thin, slender, lizard-like humanoids? Well, yeah, but you're buff. But okay, awesome. So yeah, I can see a lot of rules abuse going on with this. And it's change that doesn't need to be made blanketly. They could just as easily have said, if you're this is how orcs and kobolds or whatever, or these are races are generally seen as. This is who they are. But orcs, oh no, you're no longer menacing. You're no longer viewed with fear. You are good with animals, and you can cook. Why? Why? Again, and you're fiddling with game balance, such as it is, and not that I'm hugely worried about it. And I know somebody can say, "But didn't you do Swords Which We Light? And you don't have any negative ability score penalties." I go, no, because I wrote a game with 4 fucking pages to work with, and explaining penalties and bonuses, and not. It simplified it to remove the penalties. When a bonus at most gives you +1, a penalty isn't really all that much of a penalty anyway. So not having it wasn't that big a deal. But when you're using penalties and bonuses as part of that game balance, and then saying, "Oh, but we're going to take back those penalties, but we're not going to take back any of the bonuses," then why? And I know why, because you'd have a lot of pushback if you told, the orc player, well, that strength bonus that you got for being an orc, we're taking that back. But you can be more intelligent. But I don't care. I was going to play a stupid guy anyway. I'm going to be a fighter. I am a fighter. Well, yeah, but no. We got to balance things out. So that's why, you know. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to hear, oh, we'll just play it your way. Of course, but why make all these errata changes? You're changing how everyone's official game table must be. You're playing the Adventures League for what purpose? Really, for what purpose? I just don't. I don't get it. I know I'm old. I'm a grognard. I'm get off my lawn. Stop changing the rules. Damn kids. Your ball comes in my yard again. I'm gonna burn it. I know. I'm crotchety. Forgive me. Forgive me. Folks, we're in the midst of the pandemic as I record this. Use your common sense. Take actions as such. We're coming up on the vote in the 2020 elections, right? Next month. I don't care how you vote. I really don't care how you vote. I do care that you vote. If whatever country you're in, when your elections come up and you are eligible to vote, participate. Whether it's we're all pretty much in representative democracies, if we are a democracy. And that only works by your participation. If you don't participate, then you don't have the right to bitch and complain. If you go, oh, I supported, Bigsby over Tensor in the election, and fucking Tensor won. Well, who'd you vote for? Oh, I didn't vote. Well, then fuck you. Vote. If you are in a state that, if you're like me, where you have health issues that make you at risk, You can request a mail-in ballot. I did. I'll be mailing it back this week. Now, someone's going to say, well, what if your opinion changes in the next week or month? Yeah. Well, in that case, I've already cast my vote. I'm pretty sure my opinion isn't going to change. I'm pretty sure yours isn't either. Right? The last month, there's nothing that's going to really change your opinion unless, one candidate or the other, oh my God, he just killed that person live on national TV. You're not going to change your vote. So just mail your ballot in now. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, and I, God willing, will talk with you all manana. Later, folks.